we're going to move on to a divisional rival of theirs. We're going to go to the 49ers. I love talking about the 49ers, and I'm going to keep talking about them because I love this team. Brock Purdy, he is a young Tom Brady. They went out and absolutely slaughtered the Buccaneers. Brock Purdy looks amazing. Mr. Irrelevant. Everyone loves talking about that. I think it's a great story. Tom Brady had the same thing. Obviously, let's not make comparisons yet because that's just ridiculous. But Brock Purdy looks good. And I think I'm going to rescinding my 49ers pick for the NFC. If he plays it the way, if he continues to play, which has been a couple weeks now, so I think it's enough to, show that he can do it. I think that they still go on. I think that he's fitting Jimmy Garoppolo's role as well as Jimmy Garoppolo did. He's not as experienced. Obviously, he has no playoff experience. That's a little bit risky. Especially being a rookie, you can't expect him to have as much playoff composure and calmness, no stress getting to him, that stuff like that. Like Jimmy Garoppolo has proved that he has. But it's definitely possible. They just went out there and absolutely destroyed. And they're currently sitting atop the NFC West. They have a decent schedule the rest of the season. They're definitely going to win a couple more games. But the one thing I want to talk about this game, other than giving Brock Purdy some praises, what do you think they do this offseason? I'm going to give you the same hypothetical I gave with Baker Mayfield. The Niners are probably going to go to the playoffs. How much of the playoffs do you think that they have to win to make Brock Purdy the starter next season and just completely ignore Jimmy G and Trey Lance? Because it's very possible that they go in a Super Bowl, but even if they go to the NFC Championship game or losing the Super Bowl, do you think that Brock Purdy gets the starting job? Because I think that, the situation he's been put in, getting thrown in there, being not even the first backup, and then getting thrown in and balling out like he has. If they go and win a Super Bowl ring, you have to make him the starter because you can't not start the guy who just won you a Super Bowl. But if they, let's say, go to the Super Bowl but lose to the Chiefs, do you think they make Brock Purdy a starter? What does it take, do you think, for the both of you? What do you think it takes for him to be the starter?
Well, first of all, I have a question for you, Ethan. Are you wanting a Brock Purdy jersey rather than a Jimmy G jersey if you win our picks? No?
Nah, probably not, because he hasn't done anything for me personally. But I do like Brock Purdy. He's a great guy, great quarterback. But I'm not real. I just said I love the Niners. They're not my team, so I'm not going to go for the third backup of the team that I just like. But I do love the Niners. I love their story. I love George Kittle, Deebo Samuel. They're all great. I love the 49ers red and gold. I love those two colors. But anyway, no, Brock Purdy will not be my jersey pick if I win the picks this season. But yeah, back to the question. What do you think it takes, Frank? Let's say you were the owner of the 49ers. At what point does, assuming let's say he still plays well, gets good yards, good completion rate, good touchdowns, how far does he have to make it into the playoffs for you to say, all right, he's our guy? Keep in mind, you can pay him a hell of a lot less than you can pay Trey Lance and Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, I think he has to win the Super Bowl if he's going to do that. I just don't see them moving away from Trey Lance, especially since, slotting Brock Purdy in like this. He is showing that quarterback doesn't necessarily matter. They spend a lot of time, picks, and drama on Trey Lance over Jimmy G, and then Jimmy G gets it, and then it's obviously next man up. I think that what you really have to take out of this is that Kyle Shanahan is that guy in terms of coaching. It really doesn't matter what quarterback he has. He's going to do well regardless. We'll see how much the injury to Deebo Samuel affects them. But I think that it would probably have to be a very deep playoff run, because if you think about it, going back a couple quarterbacks, they have shown that Jimmy G, right, took them to a Super Bowl, and then they were like, we're going to move on, right? So you could do something like that with them and, play your heart out, play super well, and then next season they'll go with whoever, they think is better. I think the 49ers as a whole have kind of shown that with, the Colin Kaepernick stuff, as far back as that, right? They don't really care what kind of quarterback you are. If they feel like you give them the best chance to win, then they're going to start you. So I think that, it, again, doesn't necessarily matter what he does as much as it's however the front office feels, and I don't know how the front office feels, with him. But obviously they have enough confidence in him to not pick up Baker Mayfield, right? and just go with Brock Purdy anyways. So,
That's
Gian,
true.
I don't know what your thoughts are.
Yeah. Well, what are your thoughts, Gian? Who do you think? What do you think it takes for Brock Purdy to start in San Francisco?
Honestly, here's the thing: the 49ers were already thinking of getting rid of Jimmy G. I believe they lowered like his contract and everything just to make him more of a an available, feasible acquisition for other teams to pick him up in the event that they needed a quarterback. In addition to that, Trey Lance is a mobile quarterback, and he gets hurt, and he wasn't the absolute stud that we all thought he was. There was a time where the 49ers started Trey Lance for a couple of games, and then they switched back to Jimmy G. And it wasn't because strictly injury. Well, injury did play a role in it, but in those games, I didn't feel like Trey Lance was the answer to that. Kyle Shanahan, again, hands down, for me, is the best coach in the league in terms of scheming and developing plays and whatnot. And I feel like Brock Purdy truly fits the scheme. If Brock Purdy wins out the rest of the games in the season, and in addition to that, maybe one playoff game, I think that'll solidify his position there because the kid's already put up two 30-plus point games now. And against the Dolphins, who supposedly have a high-octane offense. Although I will say, for playing against and practicing against 49ers defense definitely helped Brock Purdy out, especially if he's training and all that. But then also the Bucks, who supposedly also have a more solid defense compared to the Dolphins, and he still blew them out of the water. For me, if he continues this streak and gets really hot, especially into the playoffs, kid's got himself a job. I mean, for like I said, I don't feel like Trey Lance or Jimmy G are really the answer for that team. Although obviously Trey Lance, with the injury that he had, there's not much more for him to prove. But it does knock off his stock a little bit. And then Jimmy G, he's getting older. He wasn't their franchise quarterback. He's not their answer for everything. We all love Jimmy G, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Brock Purdy could sneakily get into this and pull off a Tom Brady story for the 49ers. That's just me, though. And all it takes is just winning one playoff game.
I think, yeah, I think I agree with you for the most part. I think that if he wins a playoff game or two, then he's got a starting job next year, whether it's with the Niners or not. I think that if he makes it to the Super Bowl, then it's with the Niners. Here's the thing. I think they're moving on from Jimmy G regardless, which Jimmy G was questionable because, one, they wanted Trey Lance to start, and two, because Jimmy G didn't play that well last season. But this season, he played very, very well. So I think, same thing I said with Baker Mayfield, I think there's multiple teams that Jimmy G is better than the starter of. Falcons being one, Saints being another, Panthers being another, and Bucks probably being another. The entire NFC South, I think he can go there and start next year and improve the team, because all those teams either have subpar quarterbacks, they are developing, or they are about to retire. And I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is a really great guy to pick up to help develop a young quarterback. So maybe the Niners keep him for that purpose, but someone like the Falcons, where they're trying to develop Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota is fine, but Jimmy Garoppolo has been to a Super Bowl, so he's got that experience that he doesn't have that could be lent to Desmond Ridder if that's your guy going forward. So between the other two guys, I think Jimmy Garoppolo goes somewhere else probably, and I think that he deserves a starting job because I think he plays well. Trey Lance, Brock Purdy, they invested more in Trey Lance, so I think they'll probably go with him unless, like I said, he makes the Super Bowl. But the thing is, and I've said this before, quarterbacks take a while to develop, and I hate when people nag on them too quickly for developing too slowly, but from what we've seen so far, being a starter, Brock Purdy is better than Trey Lance. I think both of them will be fine in the NFL because there's still time to develop. But if Brock Purdy takes you to a Super Bowl in his rookie season, having no development yet, imagine what he does developing under Kyle Shanahan's offense and with maybe someone like Jimmy G teaching him. Then I think that he's a clear guy going forward, and I think Trey Lance starts on another team. So I think that the 49ers have three starting quarterbacks on their team currently, depending on where they go and how the whole offseason breaks down. We'll see. Jimmy Garoppolo may want to be a backup and just kind of help some of these younger quarterbacks get better, but I think they have three starting caliber quarterbacks. So I think that the Niners offseason is going to be what's really fun to watch, to see what they do with all three of these guys, unless Brock Purdy sucks, in which case we know it's going to happen. Going to start Trey Lance again and do whatever with Jimmy Garoppolo. But I really hope he at least goes to the Super Bowl or makes the NFC Championship game and puts up a good fight, and it's not his fault they lose, because I want Brock Purdy to be in discussion for the Niners starting quarterback next season, because I just want to watch that drama unfold. That's enough about the Niners. We will move on to the best segment for Gian. It is the World Cup.